You're listening to Let's Talk Marketing podcast hosted by me, Katya Allison. So, what have you gotten yourself into? In short, it's going to be a good time. We're going to have a great conversation, and there's going to be a little bit of learning along the way. Through insightful interviews with top marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders, I get to explore the latest trends, techniques, and strategies in the world of marketing. I'm here to offer you engaging and informative discussions to help you stay up to date on the latest trends and take your marketing skills to the next level. Now, in this episode, we're doing things a little different. We're covering content creator perspective on influencer marketing with Megha. Megha is a true trailblazer in the world of beauty trends. This remarkable individual has made a significant impact by creating short form beauty videos that ignited global sensations. Credited with kickstarting the viral facelifting concealer hack in 2020 and pioneering the groundbreaking Normalize Insecurities series, her ultimate goal, empowering individuals, especially young girls, to fully embrace their unique features and become the most confident versions of themselves. Join me as I get to dive into the creator perspective with Megha Singh. Welcome to the Let's Talk Marketing podcast. Today I have got my guest, Megha. Yes, that is her name. I verified that before I said it out loud. I'm so excited to have you on here for a little bit of like a content creators unplugged version of the Let's Talk Marketing podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, down the road, what we're going to do today is we're going to really unpack. We're not going to unpack. We're going to unpack content creation. And by that, I mean specifically just like how you create the content and from the creator's perspective. But before we do dive into that, I would love for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better as who you are as a content creator. So first I like to start with like where someone gets started and then where they are now. So let's start with the origin of you as a content creator. When did you decide to start dipping your toes into it? How did you do it? What platform were you on? And how long ago was it?
Oh god, it was like almost 10 years ago now. I had a fashion e-commerce company that I desperately needed sales for. So I started creating like fashion content. And it was so bad, I swear. It was on Instagram, it was photos only. They were so overly edited. You couldn't see anything. I've come a long way.
I love that. So where are you now? So it sounds like what you started off with is helping yourself and helping your business. Where are you now? Do you still have that business? Are you on multiple platforms? Who's Megha now?
So I shut that business down a long time ago. I moved on to beauty content during COVID, and it really
Okay.
picked up. Well, since then I've been doing beauty because that's what people seem to love watching, and
Oh,
I'm everywhere.
everywhere, even threads.
Everywhere. Oh, well,
That
Threads is where it's born.
that's my question now. I think it used to be like, are you on TikTok? They're either not on TikTok or they are on TikTok. But now it's all about just kind of threads. And I think that'll be an interesting conversation for another podcast for sure. I'd love to know, as a content creator, what is it that you love about being a content creator? But conversely, we like to see the good and the bad. What
Mhm.
what, if anything, could you pluck out of what you are doing and it would be like the perfect job? So let's start with the positive. What do you love about being a content creator?
Oh god, it's my community of girls. Like I just love all the love that I've been getting. It's just I like go outside. I go to CVS, for example, and there's someone smiling really hard at me, and I'm like, I know. And then they will DM me later saying that, hey, I saw you here, but I was too shy. And I was like, well, you could have said hi.
Yeah, you are a person too. So it's the
I know.
community. Do you get a chance to engage with them outside of social media platforms?
I do because I run into them and some people say hi. And I love
That
that. But for the most part, because I do short form content, they don't quite
Mhm.
remember my name. So they're like, wait, I know you. Like, where do I know you from? Do I know you from TikTok? And it's like they won't remember my name, but they like know my face.
I have been to places where I run into content creators and influencers that I follow, and it is very surreal because you know so much. They know so much about you and you don't know them. Like you are such a familiar face. Like, where do I know her from? So I could totally see that. But conversely, what if anything would you pluck out? What do you not like about what you do?
Oh god, I feel like I'm always working. Like, from when I
Mhm.
open my eyes to, like, when I close my eyes, I'm always thinking, "What do I wanna post next? What do I wanna do next?" It's like, there's never a downtime. Like, I don't think I've taken a vacation in a long time. I'm currently in my
That's
brother's apartment, I'm, like, filming all day long.
That is to me so wild. And we were talking about this offline. You also don't have a talent manager. So you are truly not only working all the time, like creating content, but you're negotiating, you're putting together the storylines, you're editing, you're posting, you're writing your own captions. Like it is all encompassing for you.
Oh god, it's a lot. But I also, like, love my work, so I don't really see it as work, as everyone else is like, "Oh my god, you're working all the time. Do you have anything else to say besides work?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not as bad as it sounds, you know?" I'm
Yeah. I
also
mean,
fine.
yeah, I was gonna say if you love what you do, that's part of the passion. And I forgot to ask you, do you do this part-time, full-time? Is this your side hustle? Is this your full-time? Full-time job? And it is a full-time job. And I would
Yeah.
imagine that as a content creator, you kind of always have to be on the edge of the next trends, the algorithms, all of that stuff. But I kind of wonder because you're in it all of the time, do you use social networks for any sort of inspiration, education, finding, ways to do things or entertainment? Do you use social networks for any of those things? And if you do, which ones do you gravitate towards for those things?
I used to be the biggest consumer, like, I would watch and consume content all day long, but I've tried to now set a limit that as soon as I post whatever, like, I don't consume any content anymore, just so that I don't, like, cloud my creativity, because that affects a lot. Like, sometimes it's
Mhm.
a really fun piece of content, I'm like, "Oh, I could recreate that," but then, like, it doesn't match with my branding, but I
Yeah.
also do it because it's, like, fun. And I'm like, "Oh, that looks really funny, like, what if I do it too?" You know? And then that messes
You're
up my
allowed to do it though. Are you do you not allow yourself to do those things that inspire you that you see?
I'm trying not to do it as much just because, like, it confuses everyone. So, example, let's say you turn on CNN and they start doing SNL there. So it's like, well, I turn on CNN
Well,
to then
it may make you wanna watch CNN, I'm just saying.
so
No, I love that.
they come to you for, instead of making it about me, it has to be about the audience. And that's very
Yeah,
confusing because I'm still a person and it's
yeah,
still a social media platform. But then I have to like see myself as a content creator, like, people are showing up for a specific type of content.
yeah, they are showing up for a specific
Whatever I'm in the mood for.
I think if it falls in line with your brand, and I will say this, like, I think it's really great that you have such a strong identity of who you are online versus offline, and you understand what your audience is looking for. I mean, that's what I hear. So you're really not only, and it makes sense because the part about like what it is that you do that you love is the community, so you're really catering to what that community wants to see and what they want to see more of. And I really think that that goes into how you create your content and the decisions that you make. I also love the fact that you've made this rule for yourself of like, all right, I'm done posting and then I'm going to walk away. That's got to be really great for your mental health because at some point, I imagine as a content creator, enough is enough. It's got to be like, okay, I cannot if I scroll through one more thing, it becomes a little I don't know, maybe a little too much. I don't know what your thoughts are on
My
that.
brain is, like, always overloaded. I'm like, this is just too much content. I can't reply to one more conversation. I don't have the energy to text people back sometimes the same day. And I'm
Yeah.
like, my real friends, they're like, "Oh, wait, you do you not have 5 seconds to text me back?" And I'm like, "I'm literally mentally drained." At this point, replying to all these emails and replying to all the conversations and posting so much. At this point, I'm currently getting 1,500 emails a day from, like, people. It
That's
is a lot.
insane.
It's a lot.
That's insane. Well, I'm so glad that you replied to my email. Um,
And you know, was when is she gonna
now
reply?
why is she not replying?
Well,
Um, okay, so you don't go to social networks for all of that stuff, the inspiration, education, and entertainment. How do you though stay up to date on things? Is there a newsletter? Are there books? Are there podcasts? Is it a show? Like, how are you staying up to date on the trends of the space? Because digital marketing, I feel like it moves and it happens so fast, and especially for content creators. Once like there is just kind of a trending song or a trending transition or like something like that. So how are you staying up to date?
so usually my friends will send me funny memes, and that's how I know what's trending. Also, I'm trying not to do trends, and I've noticed that it's better to
In
create trends than to be the one participating in. So I'm always trying to be the one who's creating it instead. And I've started multiple trends in beauty industry.
Ooh, I want to hear a little bit about that before we dive into the strategy because I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think most people want to start a trend but don't really know how, and I would assume that you're so tapped into your community, into who you are, that that's almost like the equation to get that viral response that you're looking for. So, I would love to hear or learn a little bit more about any of the trends that you've started.
Okay, so the first one that really got me onto the beauty, that really made me a beauty influencer is this one concealer trend, which is the way everyone applies concealer now. I did this one facelifting trend. You just kind of apply a dot of a concealer here and then like a line over there. It makes your eyes look lifted. And that went like really viral. This was during COVID. And that's when I had just,
Yes.
and that's the
I
point
wish that I wish I'd seen that trend. It would have made my face look
that
so
is you
much better.
here.
I love it.
Already.
Well, I love this. I love the idea of starting being the trendsetter, not the trend follower. That's
Yeah.
probably the best way to put it. Yes. Let's talk marketing. More specifically, I really want to unpack content creation from your perspective, the content creator. And the reason that I want us to be able to do that, and for the listeners, like it takes a lot to put together a piece of content. And that's what we really want to be able to dive into. So, if you're given the opportunity to decide on kind of what content to create, how do you decide between video and a picture, or maybe it's like a carousel, or or a story? Like, how do you decide? All right, XYZ beauty brand has come to me and this is what I don't actually let's start with that. How do you get these campaign briefs? Do they come to you all already packaged? Is it a mixed bag of like some people are telling you what they're trying to achieve? Like, what are you getting?
Whenever they reach out, they just come with whatever they have going on and they have a full campaign brief, including like what they want us to do, how long the video should be, etc. And also like those don't tend to perform as well. But when I reach out to them, I give them the idea and I'm like, this is what I think I can do. I know this video is gonna do well. And then if they agree and that performs better.
Why do you think that performs better? I have some theories, but I'd love to hear yours.
One is it's more organic versus whenever they
Okay.
reach out to us, they give us specific things to say. They'll be like, well, show the product and say these XYZ things about the product. That's actually not important to the viewer. Like if I say the packaging is really lightweight, the viewer does not care. They just care
Yeah.
like make me look pretty, you know?
Yeah. I don't know that I would care if a beauty product was lightweight. Uh unless it came in a container to be able to travel with. So that's interesting. How about for the campaigns that you get that have like campaign brief put together and they have lots of instructions? Have you found that some brands are open to a little bit of feedback of like, hey, I understand what it is that you're looking for, but I know that my audience would prefer this. I'm kind of wondering like how much wiggle room that you get as a creator on the brand side.
If it's a mega company, then there is not much you can say. They just kind of tell you
Interesting.
what to do. But they also book so many videos with us, and they're not very salesy either. They're kind of more going for branding. So
Okay.
the video turns out great either way. But if it's a small business, they're more open to us telling them what to do, or a mid-sized business.
And in those instances, how do you decide between, producing a video for them, a short form video, and like, just a set of pictures? Do you or do you give them a combination of both of those?
If it's on Instagram, it's going to be a reel and a bunch of stories. And sometimes they want pictures that they want to post on their website, or in their advertising. So it really depends on the campaign. But if it's on TikTok, then it's just a video. And sometimes it's just a video that goes on their advertising that I don't even post.
Like whitelisting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whitelisting is
And
a huge part of my revenue stream now. I don't even do as sponsored posts.
well, and that's what I was gonna ask you too. I know that back in the day when I was managing an influencer program, it was for a beauty brand, and the creators that I would reach out to, and maybe it's because this was honestly 5, 7 years ago, and obviously the landscape is slightly different. But they were really always very apprehensive about posting it on their social feeds. They're like, well, I don't want it to live here forever. Then it's just going to look like I'm only promoting this. So, stories was always a really big deal. Like, do you have concerns about posting on your feed, more specifically, I guess, for Instagram from a brand or for a brand or a campaign or a partnership that you're engaged in? Is that
Yeah,
ever a concern for you?
I don't want it to be just ads, 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 because like it's all about the community and how I'm giving them value. And I don't want to constantly be like selling to them. So I prefer not to do too many ads, one after another. But also I release so much content. I do about like 4 videos a day on YouTube, TikTok, and then I have another new TikTok, and I'm doing more there. So it's just a lot of content. So they're not gonna run out of like organic content from me. I'm just posting a lot.
That to me sounds insane. 4 videos a day?
Well, they're
This
short.
is why you're busy. Yeah, but I still like, you should give yourself some credit, and this is what we wanna unpack is all right, so let's talk about this. Let's unpack your day, Mega, okay? Because you're like very easy breezy saying, "Oh, I'll just do 4 videos," but that is a lot. There is something behind creating the story behind the video that you're going to post. I'm assuming that you put some thought into what it is that you're going to post because if not, then there's editing involved or maybe there's not. Or maybe that's how you're posting out 4 videos. So, share a little bit about how you create the story behind the content that you're going to post in a day, right?
Well, I always try to do kind of a series, and I try to, like you mentioned, before the podcast, you were like, you try to give your audience like one takeaway, which is usually
Yeah.
which is usually what I try to do with my video. That's like I try to give them one takeaway and one only that they can take from it, that they can then replicate it themselves. So that's kind of what I do, and then I do a series, and then people ask me to do things. And that makes it super easy because they're like, well, do this now and then do this now. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm never running out of ideas.
They just keep and I think that that's a testament to you being so open with your community and taking their feedback, and then they're seeing what they ask for comes out in that way. So when you're creating a bit of a series, give me an example of like a series that you would potentially create in just kind of your area of expertise.
Okay, so well, last year I did this series called Normalize Insecurities series because I'm followed
Mm,
by so many
love
girls. And they're all like, "Oh, well, I want a smaller nose. I want a nose job." And I'm like, "No, the small nose is trending right now. It's not going to be trending 10 years from now." First of all,
yeah.
it's you. Like there's nothing to because like whatever is trending right now, whatever beauty standard is trending right now does not mean that you need to look like that. And so I wanted to do this whole like normalize insecurity series where I'm like trying to show them that the features that are not in trend also look beautiful. So I would like change my facial features and everyone's like, well, do this now and do moles now and do acne now and do a gap teeth. And I was like, well, I'll do them all.
I love that. I love that because I think that also being a content creator in the beauty space has got to be an enormous amount of pressure, which I feel like that's probably in and of itself its own podcast to discuss, like beauty standards and being a content creator in the space and, you know, allowing people to love the way they look while still also showing them how to maybe amplify what they already have. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
you
the
kind
view
of
of
want
it.
them to own it, you know? They look
Yeah.
good. When I was younger, it was like bigger no because I grew up in Middle East and bigger noses were in there. But I
Interesting.
had a smaller one. So I was like, well, I wish I had a bigger nose. And now it's like, well, you're lucky you have a small nose. And I'm like, that's not what I heard growing up.
It is so wild, and that's interesting that you're bringing up noses, both big and both small, and then the trends and the beauty trends that follow with them as well too. How do you get into just kind of the creative process? I know that you said that you have so many thoughts going on, but I would imagine that you've gotta just kind of wrangle them all in so that you can put together a series or you can be really thoughtful of like, all right, I've got my community has said this. What's a creative way for me to be able to put that together? What do you do to get into kind of that creative space? I used to ask this question all the time when I was hiring um, designers, and because everybody is creative in different areas. I wish it was a light switch. Wouldn't that be easy? Everybody would do it
Right.
if you could just switch it on and off. But like inspiration is coming at you at all the times. So I'd love to learn a little bit about what your creative process is.
Yeah, I feel like I think momentum makes it easy. So as soon as I turn on my lights and I turn on my camera, I get the energy to begin and I get new ideas as soon as I start creating. It's only when I'm not creating, like I take maybe half a day off and I'm like, well, I have no ideas and I'm all blank and I don't know what to do. But whenever I'm back on camera, I suddenly have all the ideas, everything is flowing, and I have like 10 different ideas and I can make 10 different videos. Like it's on.
Do
That's the whole
you Do you typically, when you're creating your videos, create a long form video that you then edit down for the pieces that you see? Or are you creating short video, like multiple short videos? Does that question make sense? Like, I don't know if like the process is make a long one and then chop it up because you see the whole vision and that'll be easier on the editing side, or you're creating four different short videos.
No, I create 4 different short videos and they're all very different from each other. So I don't I haven't figured out long form yet. It's like a whole different ball game.
It is a whole different ball game. Yeah. And do you script it out beforehand? Are you not scripting it out? Are you like a bullet point person where it's just outlined and you know exactly the direction that you're going to go? I'm really curious as to like the scripting and also how many times you do it because I know I'll try to do a video and let me just tell you, the amount of times I will do a video that I know that I have in my head that doesn't come out right, like it's amazing. So, what's that process of creating the video content for you?
Wait, now I kind of know exactly how many seconds, like what's gonna work, what's not gonna work, and exactly how to film every like shot that goes into a full video. So I break down a video in usually it's like 7 to 12 seconds long, and I break them down in like 1 second or 0.5 second takes to make it like free flowing.
That's
And I want to make sure
crazy.
to watch it again too. So it has to be like short enough where people want to watch it again. So I kind of know it now, but initially it was like, initially either it was too fast or like too terrible.
Yeah, it sounds like you've really got your rhythm down. And also that breakdown of how many seconds you're recording seems like a really short amount of time. So when you're talking about short form video, in my head, I'm picturing, like a minute, 2 minutes max. But is it even shorter than that for you?
Yeah, TikTok is, I think the best performing videos are 7 to 12 seconds when
Interesting.
TikTok reels and shorts. I would say stick to 7 ideally if you can. Because you want to give them one takeaway, but you also want to, because makeup you can show them very quickly. You're like, apply this here, apply that here, and then blend. And
Yeah,
then
I guess you're right. I'm thinking of like these story-based creators that go on for a really long time because I do lose I lose my attention span after a certain time, but I would want to probably see just kind of a longer trend for like something beauty or like a beauty hack of some sort. Do you do all of well, of course you do. This I already know this answer. You must do all of your editing, right?
yeah, I can edit as I go. I also
Okay.
kind of film it in a way that doesn't require that much editing. So I will
That's
read
smart.
the same shot over and over.
Well, you almost kind of have to because editing is a whole other beast as well too.
Yeah.
So if you are if the attempt is to do like 4 videos in the day, how much time are you spending prepping? How much time are you spending actually recording, editing, and then posting out? Could you give me like a time breakdown? Is that all within one day? You're like, all right, 4 videos one day. Where are you spending most of your time?
Most of my time goes in actual filming and pre-filming. A lot of times I'm just like in my head. I'm like, oh, I have to do it. I have to do it, and I take long breaks in between every show, every video. Which, if I were to do them all together and be like really strict, like finish it within 2 hours, then I can do it within 2 hours. But then I don't end up doing it because I have no boss. So like,
What?
one video, I have no boss. Like I have no one else to answer to. So I'll film
Yeah.
a video, then I'll be like, "Oh, I'm making a cup of coffee, and I'm just pacing around the house." So I really drag it on for, like, 4 hours.
Well, I think that's part of the creative process as well too, right? Like when we're going to get you right when you're in the groove of things. So I love that. Now, what are your must-have tools as a content creator? And I mean anywhere from is it the ring light? Is it like, multiple stands for your phones? Do you have multiple phones? Are you like a phone and an iPad? Like what kind of tools, physical tools do you need, but also what kind of software do you have? Is it all on your phone? Because it sounds like you said that you do a lot of the editing on the phone. So I'm curious as to the tools in your toolbox.
I just have one bright light that is lighting me up right now, and that's from Newer, and then my
Just
iPhone.
that.
Yes. There's so much you can do with your iPhone.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, but what about your tripod?
Oh, yeah, I have one little baby tripod somewhere, and then I have this, like, sticky thing on the back. You can
Ooh,
kinda, like
that's smart.
anywhere.
I like that. Where'd you get that?
On Amazon. I think it's called Sticky Grippy.
You gotta love Amazon. You can pretty much get anything on Amazon and
Yeah.
then have it stick there. That's amazing because then it goes like directly exactly where you want it and probably sticks on any sort of service.
You can film anywhere with this, like, people are filming in taxis, etcetera, by just sticking it on the window.
That's so smart. I love that. Now, what do you use for editing when you do edit?
CapCut.
CapCut, and you use CapCut on your phone.
Mhm.
I don't know if I just have sausage fingers and, like, have such a hard time with, like, truly, like, the editing, but it's also the level of editing that I wanna do, so I love
That
CapCut on
it
my
needs to, but I don't my videos are not that edited because there isn't much text because it's beauty mostly, so it's like
Yeah.
one word, whatever, just explaining what the video is about, and that's it, and then I just want you to watch.
Just watch my stuff, just watch
Just
it.
watch my face.
That's where the beauty is. Now, really I'm kind of curious, what are the types of partnerships that you say yes to, and why do you say yes to them?
Um, some are my ongoing partnerships, like L'Oreal, etc. I know that their products are good, and I have been using them for a while anyway, because they only have a specific range of products, and I've used them all. It's only when it's like other new businesses that pop up that I'm not sure if their ingredients are good. I'm not sure if the product is gonna. sometimes like companies will reach out with the most random product, and I'm like, did you even watch my videos? Like, I don't.
Yeah, that's gotta be the tough part, right?
Yeah, and they're like, "Well, just do this nutrition powder," and I'm like, "I don't do nutrition powder." It's like I don't do supplements and I don't do backpacks, so I like have to in them. And then sometimes like they reach out, they're like, "We'll run our social media account," and I'm like, "I would do it, but it's gonna cost a lot."
Well, yeah, social media is no joke. I always feel like it's a little bit undervalued for how much everybody uses it. So there's so much more time that should be spent on that. And I think, leveraging content creators to do that is the best way to do that, especially
Yeah,
for
they just haven't allocated enough budget. Like recently, somebody reached out to me for a startup. And they were like, "Well, we're offering $10 an hour." And I'm like, "Wow, that's like way, way, way below like a starting offer."
even minimum wage in California. Let me just tell you
No,
that.
yeah,
So, like,
you're gonna like if you were to hire someone to do that, then your video, like your account is gonna go to
you're not going to get the expertise that you think
yeah,
that you should get for that. Yeah. Yeah. It looks,
content creator,
yeah.
$dollars an hour. We're charging like thousands an hour.
Well, that was gonna be my next question as well too. Like, how do you decide how much to charge? Are you just forever evolving that? Do you take a look at it and like think, like let's say a campaign brief comes to you and it, 4 videos, 5 posts, and it's, for 3 months long, right?
Yeah.
Are you calculating how much time you're going to be connected with that particular brand? Does it have to do with how much time it takes to create the content? Like, what do you use to determine how much you're either asking for or what the negotiation amount?
Yeah. So initially it was kind of a shot in the dark. I would just say whatever number came to mind. And I would try to like double it every time and like whatever they would accept it. I'll be like, sounds good, that's when you're right. But if they were
Interesting tactic.
with me, I was like, oh, well, I could have charged more. But if they really negotiate, then I know where it's at. So
Yeah,
uh
that's true.
but now it kind of depends on how much work I have going on and how much time and effort it's gonna take for me to film it.
Yeah.
And I also don't want, the whole, like, exclusivity thing, because like, if brands see my face on another competitive brand's, um, advertising, then I'm not gonna get more work, so then I have to account for the lost business in those, like, 3 months or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then on your platforms, what kind of I don't know if you think about it in this way because we did mention earlier like this organic to partnership ratio on like what it is that you're posting out. What do you try to keep it at for your social platforms? Is it, 50-50 paid partnerships and the other 50 is, like what you're posting organically and what your community wants? Like what's your breakdown between partnerships and organic?
I would have to say that I do, like, 90% organic,
I
and
love that.
like 1 or 2 ads here and there, but thankfully I've been blessed enough now that there are so many platforms that pay us to just post there. So it's like we don't have to necessarily rely on sponsored ads and like do a lot of ads because Snapchat, for example, they want like just post there. So we're not quite relying on sponsored posts as a way to make a living, which
Yeah.
initially were, and so you have to do a lot of that too. And I think our followers do understand that, but also at some level they don't. They're like selfish, They're like, "Well, why are you doing so many ads?" Like, well, I built to pay.
I've got to make a living too. It does take
I
time to execute.
and people are like, I won't be able to create any more content if I like if I'm homeless.
This is very true. So let's keep a roof over your head and create and continue to create just all of that amazing content that you are creating and putting together. I am kind of curious in regards to the whitelisting because you did mention that like whitelisting for you is a larger part of your revenue stream. For whitelisting campaigns, do you limit it to a certain amount of time? Is that how it typically works? Like when they're reaching out to you, I'm assuming that's what the ask is. Like, hey, this is the campaign. We'd love for it to be, whitelisted because there is probably a bit of exclusivity. How long are those whitelisting contracts what's that sweet spot for you?
I try to do 3 months because within 3 months we grow so much. And also their
Yeah.
ads get old. So they have to like recreate new ads after 3 months. So I try to do 3 months and then we renegotiate based on how much more well known, etc. I am.
Okay.
And how much more other deals I'm getting. So I try not to like limit myself that way by like giving
That's
them
really smart.
a full year or indefinite contract.
That's really smart. I feel like I keep giving you 12,000 questions, so I apologize. I promise I'm
Well, I love it.
well, because I'm just so incredibly curious about that, right? Like in regards to the whitelisting, and we've talked so much about like your perspective, and I've been on the brand side, right? Like I know what it is that I'm looking at. I'm looking at, your impressions. I'm looking at how much revenue you brought in. I'm looking at how many followers, all of these different KPIs and these metrics. I'm wondering how much of that information is communicated back to you as the content creator that they've signed on. Like how much like, of that success or not success, I have no idea because how would you know unless you know those numbers? How is that communicated, if at all?
In fact, it's not communicated at all. Like they don't tell us anything. In fact, I don't even see the ads myself. Like someone will send it to me. They'll be like, "Hey, I
Interesting.
saw you on so and so's like ad." I'm like, "Oh, they're not even targeting me," which is funny.
That
Sometimes,
is funny.
yeah, sometimes it goes live like weeks later, and I just don't see it. And like random people will send it to me. They'll be like, "Did they steal your video?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. It's they licensed it."
They licensed it, they paid for it. Would you
Yeah,
find value in understanding or getting that information from a brand? I would imagine that it would help you,
I
you know?
would, but they don't tell us. The only way I know is because they rebook it. So I know it's
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. Any brand that's listening, tell your creators how well they're doing because I feel like this is such a miss because to me, I would want to strengthen our relationship and not just by rebooking. And it's got to make you feel good. Like, what if I said, oh my gosh, this ad that you did, loved it, chef's kiss. This is how many impressions it brought in. This is how much revenue it brought in. Maybe like they're scared that if they give you those numbers, you're now going to hike up your price. But I would imagine you also value long-term partnerships with people.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we want to work with the same brands over and over. A lot of them, I feel like we know them now in person because, like, I have them on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, etc. They follow me on Instagram, and I kind of know who the people are working. But they just don't give us these details either. I feel like they don't even get them themselves. I don't. I really don't know what's going on.
That's amazing. Such a miss. Any brand listening again, tell your creators. Okay. I finally have one
Just
final
companies that are doing well instead. Like, if mine is not performing well and somebody else's is, like, just send it to me. I'm just curious. I'll go
Right. Let me know. Let me know what is performing well. I've
yeah.
always been such a big advocate for like even in the campaign brief to be able to provide like the content creator an example of what works really well for that particular brand, right? Maybe it is a carousel, maybe it is this type of content. I would think like for me working with a brand it's always been giving guidance because I'm signing you on because you're the creative, right? I need your vision because it's your community that we're reaching out to, even if it is whitelisted content. But I don't know. I think it's all a balance and it's all about communication and creating a community between, the brand and like the content creators. I've taken up so much of your time. I have one final question. This is the nugget that I want, everybody to walk away with. If you knew then what you know now, what is the advice that you give to yourself before you even start creating any content? What's the advice that you give to yourself?
Or one, like, start as soon as possible. Be bolder in your in your content. Don't follow trends, create trends. But obviously it's hard to just create trends like that. You just have to be bold with your content, and everyone
Yeah.
tries to be timid and like please everyone. You can't get too far by trying. So
That's
just be
great
cool.
advice. That's great advice for life too. Just be bold, not even just as a content creator, just be bold. I
Just be bold.
appreciate you coming on. Exactly. Just be bold and be authentically yourself and be bold. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your wisdom and your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So, this episode really revolved all around content creator and content creation. So I'm really excited about that because I think oftentimes we take a look at it from the brand perspective, but I think that you have to understand the perspective of the content creator. So here are my key takeaways based on just kind of the conversation that we had. The first one is that really the journey is all about continuous learning for any content creator. This kind of evolution of content consumer to content creator is a learning cycle, right? The content creator is always learning and adapting to their just kind of changing audience or community needs. That means like really understanding what their audience is engaging with, right? While you want to be authentic to who you are, you also want to keep the audience you have built up entertained, engaged, and let's call it what it is. We want them coming back for more, right? What I found interesting is that she really limits her consumption of other content to keep her creativity going. It's not normally what I hear, but I think it. This is also why you get different perspectives, right? The second key takeaway is that it's all about building a strong community from your audience of followers, right? So to support Megha, to to start with, the support that Megha received early on in her journey as a content creator was really key. From the followers who were engaged and really became part of her community, she received a ton of motivation and inspiration, ultimately making the work even more enjoyable for her. And make no mistake, being a content creator is work, all caps. I feel like sometimes that goes very undervalued. That's why I include an all caps. One of the things that can really turn off an audience, though, is the number of sponsored posts to organic posts, right? The sponsored posts are the ones that they get obviously paid for, and we've all seen them. What is also top of mind is that good balance, though, of those sponsored and the organic posts. And what I mean by organic posts is that's just everyday posts that she's going to do that have nothing associated with anything that she's sponsoring or that she supports. If you have a content creator become overly advertised, you really start to lose touch with your community as a content creator, that is, right? So as a brand, that's what you want to be able to look for is like that balance of organic and sponsored. It really is a huge balancing act for everybody. And while I wish I could give a percentage breakdown of what that balance looks like, I can't. It's really going to be different for everyone. Like try to make those sponsored ads look and feel more organic would be my advice. That can take us though down a whole episode rabbit hole if we start talking about balance and what that looks like, what to look for from a brand perspective as a creator, what does that look like? We'll save that back and forth for LinkedIn. Am I right? Um, the third and final key takeaway from this episode is successful content creation really requires a deep understanding of trends, your audience preferences, and your creative processes. This, in short, means being a trend setter, not a trend follower. I paused for dramatic effect there because I really feel like that is a mic drop moment in general, right? Being a trend setter, not a trend follower. In addition to that, and I particularly loved that we talked about this, is about having a good process for content creation in place. I am a self proclaimed process junkie. It makes things more efficient and effective. Anyone that knows me knows that I talk about it ad nauseum, but there is a reason. It's because it works. I think that this is particularly important for content creators. It's really hard to kind of quote unquote turn it off, like that creative process. You're always looking at like, oh, this moment could be potential content for a future, video or post or whatnot. Influencers really live this kind of 24/7. You can really affect your life without a process and balance. What did you take away from this episode? Find me on LinkedIn, slide into my DMs, or get the conversation started on the Let's Talk Marketing podcast page on LinkedIn. A special thank you to my podcast producers, the amazing team at Content Allies. And as usual, thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Until next time, may the conversation flow, the laughter linger, and the outlook remain optimistic, but grounded in reality. This is Katya signing off.